The morning the news broke, the entire city seemed to hold its breath, as if even the streets of Karachi understood that something massive had just cracked open in silence. A powerful automotive empire, once untouchable and towering above competitors, had collapsed overnight, dragging its proud CEO into a storm she never thought she would face. Yet somewhere in a small, dusty corner of the city, a single dad who had spent 10 years surrounded by broken engines already felt it coming long before the headlines screamed it. If this story moves you in any way, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Echoes the Stories for more emotional journeys like this. Your support keeps these stories alive for those who still believe in kindness, struggle, and second chances. For 10 long years, Arwen Malik had done something that nobody in her world understood. Every few weeks, without warning, her black company trucks would arrive at a modest roadside garage owned by a single father named Saad Rafiq. The trucks never brought praise, contracts, or opportunities. They brought wreckage. Burnt engines, shattered machine parts, corrupted prototypes that smelled of burnt oil and failed ambition. Each time, they were dumped without explanation, as if the garage was nothing more than a graveyard for the company's mistakes. Saad Rafiq never questioned it at first. Life had already taught him not to expect explanations from people in power. After losing his wife early and raising his young child alone, he had learned to survive by fixing what others abandoned. His garage was small, exposed to sun and dust, with tools older than some of his customers' cars. But Saad had a gift hidden inside tired hands. He could listen to machines the way others listened to music, hearing their broken rhythm and slowly bringing them back to life. The first engine Arwen's company dumped looked beyond repair. It was charred, cracked, and discarded like it had no value left in the world. Everyone around Saad told him to scrap it immediately, but something about it refused to let him give up. Night after night, under a dim bulb, while his child slept nearby on folded cloth, Saad worked on it with nothing but patience and instinct. And against logic, it started again. Not perfectly, not proudly, but it breathed. That was how it began. One broken engine turned into many. Over the years, Arwen Malik's company kept sending their failures to the same forgotten garage. There was never acknowledgement, never gratitude, never even a name attached to the deliveries. It was as if Saad Rafiq did not exist beyond the function of disposal. Yet Saad continued to repair them, slowly transforming junk into functioning machines that somehow still carried the DNA of ambition within them. His life did not become easier. Money remained tight. Repairs for ordinary customers kept the lights on, but the mysterious engines took all his time and energy. There were nights when he slept sitting up, hands still stained with oil. There were days when his child quietly watched him struggle and learned early that love sometimes looked like exhaustion. Still, Saad never stopped. Because something inside him believed that broken things deserved a second chance, even when people did not. As years passed, whispers began spreading around the neighborhood. People said Saad was wasting his time fixing corporate garbage. Some mocked him, saying he was being used. Others avoided his garage entirely, as if misfortune clung to it. But Saad never responded. He simply worked. And quietly, without anyone noticing, he became one of the most skilled engine restorers in the region, not through education or luxury training, but through relentless survival. Meanwhile, far away from that dusty garage, Arwen Malik stood at the peak of her empire. She was known for innovation, ruthless efficiency, and unstoppable expansion. But what nobody saw behind closed doors was a growing flaw in her foundation. Her company's experimental engines were becoming unstable, her production systems overstretched, and her decisions increasingly disconnected from reality. Still, she continued sending failures away, never questioning where they went, never caring who handled them. Until the day everything collapsed. It happened fast. A major production failure, followed by a catastrophic recall, then lawsuits that multiplied like fire spreading through dry grass. Investors pulled out. Contracts vanished. Within weeks, the empire that once defined her identity became a hollow structure echoing with loss. Arwen Malik, once untouchable, suddenly found herself standing in ruins of her own making, searching for answers that no boardroom could provide. And for the first time in 10 years, she remembered the engines. Not as waste. Not as failures. But as something she had abandoned without understanding where they went. Driven by desperation and a strange pull she could not explain, Arwen traveled across the city until she found herself standing in front of a small garage surrounded by scattered metal, half-painted walls, and the smell of oil and dust baked under daylight. She expected nothing. Certainly not what she saw. Inside, engines once declared dead were alive again. Some were dismantled with precision. Others were fully restored, polished, and functioning as if reborn. And at the center of it all stood Saad Rafiq, older now, tired in a way that came from years of invisible labor, but steady like someone who had never stopped believing in broken things. He did not recognize her immediately. To him, she was just another face from a world that usually forgot people like him existed. But when she spoke her name, when the truth of where the engines had come from finally aligned with the reality in front of her, something in the air shifted. 10 years of silence suddenly gained weight. Every discarded machine became a memory she had never acknowledged. And every repaired engine became a question she had never asked. Saad did not react with anger. That was not his nature. Instead, there was only quiet understanding, as if he had always known that one day the source of his mystery deliveries would stand where she stood. What hurt him was not the neglect, but the realization that she had never once thought about the hands that rebuilt her failures while she built her empire. Arwen Malik looked at the garage differently now. Not as a dumping ground, but as a place where her broken legacy had been quietly rebuilt without credit or recognition. The collapse of her company no longer felt like sudden misfortune. It felt like the final consequence of years spent ignoring the foundation beneath her success. In the days that followed, something unexpected began to change. Arwen did not return to rebuild her empire immediately. Instead, she returned to learn. Not as a CEO, but as someone who had finally realized how little she understood about what truly held her world together. She watched Saad work. She saw how every broken engine was treated not as waste, but as a puzzle worth respecting. Slowly, she began to understand that her downfall was not caused by lack of technology, but lack of humility. Saad never lectured her. He never demanded apologies. He simply continued working, allowing time and silence to do what words never could. And in that silence, Arwen Malik began to change. She started showing up earlier each day. She began helping without being asked. Her hands, once only used for signing decisions that affected thousands, now learned the texture of grease and metal. For the first time in years, she felt the weight of something real, something that did not depend on control or power, but on patience and effort. The transformation was not instant. It was slow, painful, and deeply human. There were moments when Arwen struggled with guilt so heavy it almost drove her away. But each time, Saad's quiet consistency reminded her that broken things did not need perfection to be worth saving. And slowly, something began to rebuild. Not an empire. Not a company. But understanding. Months passed, and what began as collapse turned into reconstruction of a different kind. Arwen's company did not return in its old form. Instead, a new initiative was born, built around repair, sustainability, and respect for engineering life cycles. And at the heart of it, Saad Rafiq's garage was no longer invisible. It became the foundation of a new philosophy that refused to discard failure as waste. One quiet afternoon, under a clear daytime sky, Arwen stood outside the garage watching engines she once abandoned now run again with purpose. Saad worked beside her, as steady as ever, while her past and present finally stopped fighting each other. And in that moment, she understood something she had spent years avoiding. Success was never about how high something rose. It was about what you chose to rebuild when everything fell apart. If this story touched your heart, take a moment to engage with the video and share your thoughts, because stories like this deserve to be felt, not just heard. And before we reach the end, a special request to comment below what you would have done if you were in Saad's place when the world never saw your effort but still depended on it. In the end, Arwen Malik did not just recover her company. She rebuilt herself through the hands of a man who never stopped fixing what others threw away. And Saad Rafiq, the single father once ignored by the world, became the quiet reason an empire learned how to feel human again. Because sometimes, the people we overlook are the ones holding our broken worlds together all along.